Good day, everyone. I stand before you today to share a powerful truth. God will open the right doors at the right time. This is not merely a comforting thought, but a promise rooted in the divine wisdom that governs our lives. We live in a world that often values speed, instant gratification, and quick fixes. We want things now, answers, opportunities, success. But God's plan for us is one that doesn't work on our timeline. It operates on His perfect timing. Divine timing is a concept that challenges our human understanding of control and immediacy. It teaches us that life is not simply a series of random events or coincidences. Instead, everything we experience is part of a greater plan, a plan that has been designed with intention and purpose. The doors that open in our lives, the opportunities that present themselves, and even the delays we encounter are all orchestrated by a force far greater than ourselves. This divine timing is not based on our schedules or our desires, but on the higher purpose that God has for each of us. We often want things to happen on our terms. We think that success, love, fulfillment, and answers should come at the time we expect them or when we feel ready for them. But God sees the entire picture, the full span of our lives, from beginning to end, and He understands the perfect moments when things need to align. So when a door doesn't open at the moment we desire, it's not because God is delaying us or ignoring our prayers. It's because He's aligning everything in a way that prepares us for what's ahead. It's a reminder that God's plan is not just for today, it is for our tomorrow, our future, and the generations that will follow. In that divine timing, there's a deep truth. God's purpose for our lives is far more significant than the circumstances we see in front of us. We might not fully comprehend why certain doors don't open immediately, but with time, as we grow, we begin to realize that those moments of waiting were not in vain. They were shaping us, preparing us, and guiding us towards something far greater than we could have ever imagined for ourselves. What seems like a setback today could be the very thing that positions us for a breakthrough tomorrow. Divine purpose in timing also reminds us that God is always working behind the scenes. We may think we are walking a path alone or that opportunities are passing us by, but God is orchestrating events, moving people, aligning circumstances, and opening doors at just the right time. Sometimes the delay is about building our character or strengthening our faith, allowing us to step into the next chapter with the wisdom and resilience we need to handle the blessings that will come. When we trust in His timing, we trust that He is preparing us for the fullness of what He has planned. Things that are beyond our immediate understanding. It is in this realization that we learn to embrace the unknown with faith and confidence. Even when the future feels uncertain or when doors seem to close one after another, we hold on to the truth that God will never fail to open the right doors at the right time. His timing is perfect, and His purpose is always greater than we can see from our limited vantage point. So even when we cannot understand why things are unfolding the way they are, we can trust that there is a purpose behind it all. Divine timing is not just about the right doors. It's about the right us at the right moment, in the right place, with the right preparation. Patience and faith go hand in hand when it comes to trusting in God's timing. It's one thing to have faith that God will provide, but it's another to wait patiently for that provision to unfold. Faith requires us to trust in what we cannot see, and patience teaches us that this trust is often tested over time. Our culture encourages us to seek instant results, to want things now, to push for outcomes that satisfy immediate desires. But God's ways are not rushed. His timing is not bound by the clock or the calendar. He operates in a rhythm that transcends our limited human understanding. Patience in the face of uncertainty isn't passive. It's an act of trust. It is a choice to keep moving forward even when we don't have all the answers. It's choosing to believe that the best is yet to come, even when the door we're waiting for seems slow to open. When we wait, we are not just idly sitting by. We are preparing, growing, and developing in the spaces that God has placed us. Every day of waiting is an opportunity to build our faith, to align ourselves more closely with God's purpose, and to learn what we might need for the next season of life. In moments of waiting, there may be doubts, frustrations, or fears. But patience is the acknowledgement that God knows what He is doing, even when we can't see it. It requires us to trust that He sees the full picture, the things we cannot see from where we stand. It is in this waiting, this patience, that our faith is made stronger. We learn to rely not on our timing, but on His. We release control over the outcomes and surrender to the process, knowing that God will not withhold what is meant for us. Faith isn't just about believing in God's ability to act. It's about trusting that His actions, when they come, will be for our good and in perfect alignment with His will. Patience and faith are refined when we learn to stand firm in the waiting. We may be tempted to rush through the process, to seek shortcuts, or take matters into our own hands. But true faith knows that God will open the doors at exactly the right moment. Sometimes waiting is part of the preparation process. We may need time to grow, to learn, or to be molded into the person we need to be in order to walk through that door with the right heart, mindset, and strength. Our impatience can sometimes lead us to rush past what God is trying to teach us. In this way, patience becomes not just an act of waiting, but an act of trust. True faith doesn't give up in the waiting. It doesn't give in to despair when things don't happen immediately. Instead, it holds on to the certainty that God's timing is always perfect, even if it feels delayed. Faith tells us that even when the door isn't opening when we expect it to, it's not a sign that we've been forgotten or abandoned. It's a sign that God is still working, preparing us and the world around us for something greater. And as we wait, we must hold fast to the belief that God will open the right doors when the time is right. Patience, then, is not just the ability to wait, it's the ability to wait with hope, with trust, and with faith that God's plan will unfold as He has designed it. Preparation for the opportunity is a crucial element in the journey of faith and trust in God's divine timing. It's easy to become focused on the moment when the door will finally open, but often the true blessing is not in the opportunity itself, but in the preparation that takes place before it arrives. Opportunities do not come to us randomly. They often require us to be equipped in specific ways. The season of waiting is not a waste. It is a time of training, refining, and building the skills, character, and resilience necessary to step into what God has for us. When we think about opportunities, we often envision them as a destination, a moment when everything aligns perfectly. But opportunities are not just about the event itself. They are about the person we become in the process. Before any great opportunity arrives, we must be prepared to handle it. Well, God is not only preparing the opportunity for us, He is preparing us for the opportunity. This means that our character, our faith, and our readiness must be shaped and tested before we walk through the door. Preparation doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it feels like we're simply enduring or waiting. But it's in those quiet moments of patience and growth that we build the strength and wisdom to succeed when the opportunity comes. During the times of preparation, it's essential to focus on growing in the areas that God has called us to, whether it's deepening our spiritual life, refining our skills, or cultivating emotional and mental strength. Each moment of preparation is an investment in the person God is shaping us to be. If we are not prepared for the opportunity, even when it arrives, we might not recognize it, or worse, we might not have the ability to sustain it. Sometimes, God holds back certain opportunities, not because they aren't meant for us, but because we're not ready to handle the responsibility that comes with them. This preparation phase is about developing the resilience, wisdom, and humility necessary to walk through the doors He opens with integrity and grace. Preparation also involves aligning ourselves with God's purpose. It's easy to get distracted by the opportunities others are stepping into, comparing ourselves to others, or rushing toward what we think is best for us. But true preparation comes when we allow God to shape our desires and align our hearts with His will. In this way, we prepare not only our skill set, but our very identity. The opportunities that come from God are not just a means to personal gain. They are a chance to fulfill a purpose that impacts the world around us. When we are prepared spiritually and emotionally, we become equipped to use the opportunities God gives us to serve others and advance His kingdom, rather than just seeking personal gain. As we prepare for opportunities, it's also important to remember that preparation is a process that requires persistence. Often, opportunities don't come in the way we expect, and they might not appear at the time we think we're ready. But every day of preparation, every lesson learned, every moment of growth is a step toward readiness. Sometimes God gives us the opportunity to build patience and perseverance before He opens the door. When we look back, we'll see that the waiting, the preparation, the challenges, and the lessons were all vital to positioning us for the right moment. We cannot rush this process. It takes time to become the person who is able to carry the weight of the opportunity God has planned. The act of preparation is a demonstration of our trust in God. We are preparing because we believe that He will open the door when the time is right. It's a declaration of faith that He has a purpose for our lives, and we are willing to do the necessary work to align ourselves with that purpose. Our preparation is an act of partnership with God, showing that we are ready, willing, and faithful to step into the calling He has placed on our lives. We may not see the full picture now, but we trust that each step, each day of preparation is leading us closer to the opportunity that God is preparing for us. The significance of closed doors is often misunderstood, especially in a world that values constant progress and success. We tend to equate open doors with blessings and closed doors with rejection or failure. But in God's divine design, closed doors can hold just as much significance if not more, than the opportunities that seem to open effortlessly. Closed doors are not always an indication of a setback or failure. Often they are a sign of God's protection, His wisdom, and His desire to guide us towards something greater. When a door closes, it can feel disheartening, especially when it's something we've worked hard for or something we thought was meant for us. But in those moments, it's important to remember that God sees far beyond our immediate circumstances. His understanding of what is truly best for us is infinite, while our own understanding is limited to the present. A closed door is not necessarily an indication that we are not good enough or that our dreams are invalid. It may simply be God's way of keeping us from something that is not aligned with His greater purpose for our lives. Sometimes what we think is the right opportunity is not the best fit for who we are becoming or for what God wants to do in and through us. Closed doors are often a form of redirection. When one door closes, it is God's way of guiding us to another, often better path. Sometimes we get fixated on the door that has shut, not realizing that God has something better ahead. The disappointment we feel in those moments of closure can cloud our ability to see the new door that is waiting for us to walk through. It's easy to stay stuck in the what could have been, but true faith calls us to trust that the closed door is not the end of the journey. It is part of the process that leads us toward what God truly has in store for us. In the midst of closed doors, we must also recognize that God is often teaching us something about ourselves. When we face rejection or encounter a closed door, it can be a powerful opportunity for reflection. Sometimes the things we desire so strongly are tied to our own ambitions, fears, or insecurities. And a closed door gives us the chance to evaluate whether what we wanted was truly in alignment with God's will. It's in these moments of pause and reflection that we often grow the most. We might discover that our motivations were not as pure as we thought, or that there is something in our character that needs refining before we can step into the next opportunity. Closed doors can be a form of divine protection. There are moments in our lives when we think we're ready for something, but God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that we are not yet equipped to handle what's behind that door. A door that appears to be closed may actually be saving us from unnecessary heartache, disappointment, or danger. We might not understand it at the time, but as we continue to grow and gain perspective, we see that the closed door was God's way of protecting us from an outcome that would not have been in our best interest. Just because we can't see the danger doesn't mean it's not there. And God, in His love for us, closes doors to shield us from harm. The significance of closed doors also lies in their ability to strengthen our faith. When we face a closed door, we are forced to rely on God for direction. It's in those moments of uncertainty and closed opportunities that we learn to trust Him more deeply. We learn that our future is not dependent on a specific job, relationship, or opportunity, but on God's faithful provision and guidance. A closed door is a test of faith, a reminder that God is in control and that His plans for us are always better than the ones we try to force. We might not understand the reasons behind the closure, but faith calls us to trust that God is working behind the scenes to orchestrate something better. Closed doors are not an indication that God has forgotten us. They are an invitation to trust in His timing, His wisdom, and His love. The closed door is not the end of the journey, but a signpost that God is still at work in our lives. It may feel like a detour, but it's actually part of the path that leads us to the destination He has prepared for us. Instead of mourning the closed door, we can choose to celebrate the fact that God is guiding us with purpose and precision. Every closed door is a reminder that there is something better, something greater that lies just ahead. The power of trusting God's process is rooted in the understanding that His ways are far beyond our ways and His timing is perfect. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that things should move according to our own plan, that the road to success or fulfillment should be direct and immediate. However, when we trust God's process, we surrender to a path that may not always be clear, may involve challenges and delays, but ultimately leads us to where we need to be. Trusting in God's process requires us to relinquish control, to let go of our own agendas, and to embrace the journey He has set before us, knowing that each step is part of a greater design. God's process often does not align with our immediate desires or expectations. We may want things to happen quickly, but God knows the right time for everything. Trusting His process means recognizing that there is purpose in every season, even the ones that seem slow or challenging. We may not understand why things are taking longer than we anticipated, why certain doors are closed, or why we are facing obstacles, but trust tells us that there is a reason for it all. God's process refines us. It shapes our character, strengthens our faith, and prepares us for the blessings and responsibilities that lie ahead. One of the most difficult aspects of trusting God's process is accepting that we don't have all the answers. It requires humility to acknowledge that our understanding is limited and that God sees the bigger picture. We often want clarity and certainty before we move forward, but trusting in God's process means stepping out in faith even when the full picture is not yet revealed. It is a deep conviction that God's plan is for our good, even when we cannot see how every detail fits together. Faith in the process is not about knowing every step ahead of time, but about believing that God is guiding us with wisdom, love, and care. Trusting God's process also involves embracing the uncertainty and the unknown. In our human nature, we are wired to seek security and predictability. But following God's plan requires us to let go of the need for control. We may face times of waiting, moments when the next step is unclear, or situations that test our patience and resolve. Trusting God's process means moving forward with confidence, even when the path is not fully visible. It is about knowing that God is with us, that He has a purpose for every moment, and that He will not leave us without direction. We are not alone on this journey. His presence and guidance are always with us, even when we can't see or feel it. God's process is one of growth and development. It is often in the difficult and uncomfortable moments that we experience the greatest transformation. We may face challenges that stretch us beyond our comfort zones, but those moments are the ones that mold us into the people we are meant to be. God's process is designed to bring out the best in us. Through trials, setbacks, and even failures, we learn resilience, perseverance, and trust. The process refines our faith, teaching us to rely not on our own strength, but on God's power and grace. As we grow through these experiences, we are being prepared for something greater than we could have imagined for ourselves. Trusting God's process also means understanding that the journey is just as important as the destination. We often become so focused on the end result that we forget to embrace the lessons, experiences, and growth that take place along the way. The process shapes our character, builds our faith, and equips us for the blessings ahead. If we rush through it or try to bypass the necessary steps, we may miss the very things that God wants us to learn. Each step, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is a part of the preparation for what is to come. The process is not something to endure, but something to embrace, knowing that it is leading us to something greater. Trusting God's process is an act of faith. It is a declaration that we believe He knows what is best for us, even when we cannot see the full picture. It is choosing to trust Him when the path seems uncertain, when the future is unclear, and when things don't go according to our plan. Trusting in His process is trusting in His love, His wisdom, and His perfect timing. When we let go of our own expectations and surrender to His will, we open ourselves up to a life of purpose, peace, and fulfillment. God's process may not always be easy, but it is always good, and it always leads us to where we are meant to be. Action and responsibility are integral parts of the journey of faith and the unfolding of God's purpose in our lives. It's one thing to believe that God will open the right doors at the right time, but it's another to take the necessary steps to walk through those doors when they do appear. Faith is not a passive experience. It is an active choice that calls us to engage, move, and make decisions. God has entrusted us with the responsibility of taking action in partnership with His divine will. It is not enough to simply wait and pray. We must act in alignment with the guidance He provides. Taking action requires courage and conviction. There are times when the doors God opens seem daunting or beyond our current abilities. We may feel ill-equipped or unprepared, but trusting God's plan means understanding that He has already equipped us with everything we need to fulfill the purpose He has set before us. The action step is about stepping out in faith, even when we don't have all the answers. It is about choosing to move forward despite fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Action is the evidence of our trust in God's provision. It shows that we believe He will meet us as we step into the unknown and take the first step toward the opportunities He has planned for us. Responsibility in this context is about owning our part in the process. God doesn't just drop blessings into our laps. He invites us to partner with Him in bringing His will to fruition. This means that we are responsible for the decisions we make, the actions we take, and the attitudes we carry. We cannot expect to see progress or growth if we are not actively working toward it. The responsibility means taking ownership of our lives, acknowledging that we have a role to play in the outcomes we desire. We are co-laborers with God, and while He provides the direction and opens the doors, we are called to take the steps to move forward. Part of taking action and accepting responsibility involves making wise decisions in alignment with God's word and His guidance. It's about being intentional with our choices, understanding that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the larger picture of God's plan for our lives. Responsibility requires us to be faithful stewards of what God has given us, whether it's our talents, our time, or our resources. We cannot wait for perfection or ideal conditions to act. Instead, we are called to act faithfully with what we have in the present moment, trusting that God will continue to provide and lead us as we move forward. At the same time, action and responsibility require perseverance. The path toward fulfilling God's purpose is rarely straightforward or easy. There will be obstacles, delays, and moments of discouragement. But it is in those moments that our responsibility to keep moving forward becomes even more critical. Responsibility means continuing the work even when things are tough, even when we don't see immediate results, and even when the journey feels long. It's about pressing on with determination, knowing that God is faithful and that He will honor our efforts in His time. Every act of responsibility, every step of action, no matter how challenging, is a step toward the fulfillment of His plan. Taking action and owning our responsibility also requires us to maintain a spirit of humility. While we are called to take initiative, we are also reminded that we cannot do it alone. True responsibility acknowledges that God is the one who enables and sustains us. We may put in the effort, but it is God who opens doors, makes a way, and gives us the strength to keep going. Humility allows us to rely on His wisdom, seek His direction, and trust in His provision. It keeps us grounded, reminding us that the success or failure of our actions is not ultimately in our hands, but in His. Action and responsibility are expressions of our faith. They show that we believe God's promises are true and that we are committed to walking in alignment with His will. Faith without action is incomplete. It's easy to believe that things will work out, but trust is proven when we take the steps, even in uncertainty, to make those things happen. Action is the bridge between faith and results. Responsibility is the acknowledgement that we play an active role in the unfolding of God's plan in our lives. Both require us to step outside of our comfort zones, make difficult choices, and keep moving forward, knowing that God is with us in every step. In this way, our actions and responsibilities become acts of worship, expressions of our trust in the one who has called us to fulfill a purpose greater than ourselves. Confidence in the right doors is an essential part of navigating life's journey with faith. It's not just about knowing that God will open the right doors at the right time, but also having the assurance that when He does, we are fully equipped and prepared to walk through them. Confidence in this sense isn't arrogance or self-reliance. It is a deep, settled trust that God's timing, provision, and direction are perfect. It is the belief that when the right door opens, it is exactly what we need, even if we don't fully understand it yet. This confidence comes from knowing that God is faithful, that He has already paved the way for us, and that He will provide everything we need to succeed once we step forward. When we are confident in the right doors, we are no longer paralyzed by indecision or fear. Too often we second guess ourselves, wondering if we are making the right choice or if the opportunity is truly from God. Confidence allows us to take bold steps, to move forward with conviction, knowing that God is in control. It frees us from the fear of failure, knowing that even if a door doesn't lead to the outcome we expected, God is still guiding us, teaching us, and working all things together for our good. This kind of confidence doesn't come from a place of having everything figured out or knowing all the details. Rather, it comes from the trust that no matter what, God is faithful and will use every situation to grow us. Having confidence in the right doors also means trusting that God will close the wrong ones. In a world where we are constantly encouraged to go after every opportunity, it can be difficult to accept when a door is closed. But confidence in God's process includes the trust that He knows which doors are meant for us and which are not. When a door closes, it is a sign that God is protecting us, redirecting us, and ensuring that we don't step into something that is not aligned with His will for our lives. Confidence is rooted in the belief that God will never lead us astray. If a door closes, it is not a failure. It's an invitation to trust his judgment and to wait for the door that is meant for us. The right door will always open at the right time. And when it does, we can walk through with assurance and purpose. This confidence also enables us to walk through doors even when the future feels uncertain. We might be stepping into a new season of life, a new career or new relationship, and it's natural to feel anxious or overwhelmed by what lies ahead. However, confidence in the right doors means trusting that God has already prepared the way for us. We do not need to fear the unknown because we are not stepping into it alone. God goes before us and he walks beside us every step of the way. When we walk through the right door, we can be confident that we are not doing it in our own strength, but with God's power, grace, and provision. Even if we encounter challenges along the way, we can trust that these are part of the journey, shaping us and preparing us for what is to come. Confidence in the right doors also comes from knowing our worth and understanding that God's plan for us is specific and intentional. When we walk through the right doors, it's because we are exactly who God designed us to be for that moment. Our experiences, our skills, and our gifts have all been part of God's preparation for the door he is opening for us. Confidence arises from the realization that God doesn't make mistakes. The door that opens for us is not random or accidental. It is a door that he has specifically designed for us to walk through at this time in our lives. When we trust in this, we can walk forward with boldness, knowing that we are not stepping into something we are unqualified for, but into something that God has already equipped us to handle. This kind of confidence doesn't mean that we won't face challenges or moments of doubt. But when we trust that the door we are walking through is the right one, we can face the difficulties with courage, knowing that God is in control. Functions is not the absence of fear or uncertainty, but the conviction that we are exactly where God wants us to be and that he will provide everything we need to succeed. It is an unwavering belief that the doors he opens for us are opportunities designed to fulfill his purpose in our lives, and that with his guidance, we will walk through them with grace, strength, and wisdom. In essence, confidence in the right doors is rooted in faith. It is faith that the right doors will open, faith that we will recognize them when they do, and faith that we will be prepared to walk through them, knowing that God's plan for our lives is always greater than we can imagine. Confidence comes not from our own abilities, but from the unwavering trust in God's faithfulness to lead us exactly where we need to be at the right time. And with that confidence, we can step boldly into the future, knowing that each door is part of God's perfect and purposeful plan. Gratitude and faith in the journey are powerful forces that can transform how we approach life's ups and downs. Often we get so focused on reaching the destination or achieving specific goals that we overlook the beauty and lessons of the journey itself. Yet it is in the journey where our character is shaped, our faith is tested, and our understanding of God's purpose deepens. Gratitude allows us to see the blessings in every step, even when the path is difficult. While faith keeps us moving forward, trusting that God is with us every step of the way. Gratitude is more than just thanking God for the good things that come our way. It is a mindset, an intentional choice to recognize God's presence in every moment of the journey. When we practice gratitude, we shift our focus from what is lacking or what hasn't yet materialized to what God is doing right now. It allows us to see the small blessings, the lessons learned through struggle, the strength we gain through challenges, and the unexpected moments of joy. Gratitude teaches us to find peace in the process and trust that God is actively working in our lives, even when we can't immediately see the results. It is easy to be grateful when things are going well, when the doors open and the path ahead seems clear. However, true gratitude is shown when we can give thanks even in the midst of uncertainty, when the doors are closed and when the way forward is unclear. This is when our faith in the journey becomes essential. But faith is the confidence that even when we can't see the full picture, God is leading us with purpose, and that He will fulfill His promises in His perfect time. It is believing that every step, even the difficult ones, is part of a divine process, shaping us, preparing us, and moving us closer to the future He has planned for us. Faith in the journey is about trusting God's timing and trusting that He knows the right path for us, even when it doesn't look like we imagined. Faith is the conviction that every twist and turn, every delay and disappointment is not random, but is part of God's divine orchestration. Often, we may feel impatient or frustrated because we want things to move faster or in a different direction. But faith calls us to trust that the journey is just as important as the destination. God is not only concerned with where we're going, but also with who we are becoming along the way. The process of waiting, growing, and learning is as much a part of God's plan as the destination itself. Gratitude enhances our faith because it helps us to focus on the positive, even when things are not going according to our expectations. When we thank God for the lessons, for the strength, and for the small victories along the way, we are reminded of His goodness and faithfulness. Gratitude keeps our hearts soft and open to God's work in our lives, preventing us from becoming discouraged or disheartened by setbacks. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, we begin to view them as opportunities for growth, knowing that each experience has something to teach us and that we are never alone in the process. Faith in the journey also means embracing the seasons of waiting. Waiting can be one of the hardest parts of the journey, especially when we have clear goals or desires and are unsure of how to reach them. Yet, waiting is never wasted in God's economy. It is in the waiting that we learn patience, develop resilience, and build trust in God's provision. But gratitude in the waiting season helps us find joy in the moment, even when the destination feels far away. It reminds us that God is not absent in the waiting, but is working behind the scenes, preparing us for the breakthrough, the open door, or the new opportunity that is coming. When we trust the journey, we also trust that God's plan for us is always better than the plan we have for ourselves. Gratitude acknowledges that God's timing is perfect, and faith assures us that He is always working things together for our benefit. This combination of gratitude and faith enables us to walk through the journey with peace, joy, and anticipation, knowing that God is guiding us every step of the way. The journey is not always easy, but with gratitude and faith, we are able to embrace it fully. Gratitude helps us to see the beauty in the small things and the lessons in every experience. Faith gives us the strength to keep moving forward, even when the path seems unclear. Both gratitude and faith in the journey remind us that we are not alone, that God is always with us, and that His plan is unfolding in perfect time. The journey, no matter how long or challenging, is as significant as the destination. And when we walk through it with a heart full of gratitude and trust in God's faithfulness, we are prepared to receive all that He has in store for us. As we reflect on the powerful journey we're all on, remember that each step, each door that opens, and each moment of waiting is part of God's divine plan. Gratitude and faith are not just words we speak, but the very foundation that sustains us through every season of life. They are the lenses through which we see God's hand at work and the strength we need to move forward in His purpose. The right doors will open at the right time, not because we've earned them, but because God, in His infinite wisdom, has designed a perfect path for us. Trust the process, even when it's hard. Embrace the journey with gratitude and move forward in faith, knowing that God's timing is flawless, His plan is intentional, and His love for us never wavers. God's doors are always the right ones. When you walk through them, do so with the confidence that you are exactly where you need to be, and that every moment of your journey is leading you closer to the fulfillment of His promises. Keep your heart open, your mind focused, and your faith unwavering. The right doors will always open at the right time, and you, with God's grace, are ready to walk through them.